as we go through the slide deck and as I present for maybe the next 10 to 15 minutes, if you have any questions, please just put that in the chat and we'll definitely get to it at the end. But really wanting to spend some time today talking through product development, but within the context of how can we do it without the cost? And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? So in terms of that, just starting with a little bit of background, who is Gamber? And what we are and who I work for is essentially the first product development marketplace. We've been through a Series A fundraising round. We raised $11 million. And what we're really committed to is democratizing the product development process and reducing the barriers to entry. And I think that is very much at the core of what our mission statement is. And, perfectly linked into what we're wanting to talk to you today about, reducing the cost, reducing the barriers. Who am I? I'm the head of design. So I'm really focused on how do I enable both processes and tools and the network to provide you all as client bases and creators the things you need to get products into market. My background is that I came from Dyson most recently, had 10 years there. I have 78 patents to my name. And what I'm really interested in is how can you develop new products that are uniquely differentiated from the competitors so that you can have a really defensible position in trying to leverage market share and essentially have a really sustained, fruitful and profitable business. So that's the background. That's who Gamber is, who I am. Why are we here today? We all know that the economy, the markets, supply chain, it's all very challenging at the moment. And I think it's a perfectly timed conversation piece in terms of for everybody looking to both develop and extend their businesses and have longevity, how do we reduce the time to market, getting to market as quickly as possible, and doing that in the most cost-effective manner so that you can essentially upscale and make as much margin and have as profitable business as possible. For everyone, I'm sure we've got a unifying experience of sitting around the table with teams and other collaborators and saying, well, how do we strategize and come up with the next thing that we'd like to produce and get into the market? And, what is the right step? What are the pros and cons and the trade-offs in terms of time, cost, quality, uniqueness? And what I'd really like to go through with you today is a methodology and an approach that will allow you to essentially systematize and break that down, reduce the time and reduce the cost. So for anybody who is familiar with user-centered design, which is really the process by which we champion the benefits that we provide to our end users. We solve real problems, which then unlocks the ability to positively differentiate from our competitors. Within that process, there are these three guiding principles, which for me in my experience, in my career, I've always deferred to, and I think is a really, really good talking point for us to centralize some of our attention today. And that is to say, for every new idea, people want to buy it. It's feasible. You can actually make it. The funny metaphor from one of my favorite films in terms of you can't be making it out of unobtainium, right? It has to be something that is available within your supply chain. But I think most crucially, and in context of today's conversation, viability. Can I afford to make this? Is this going to provide me the margin and business incentives that will make this a profitable business? So just to, in the ideas that we take and bring forward to product development, desirability, feasibility, but most crucially within the economic climates of today, the viability of that idea. Can I make a sustained business out of this? And I think if I just take that little piece of viability and contextualize that into, well, what are my options? What are your options available to you in terms of extending your product lines and continuing your business in terms of product development? And I would say this is a great graph in terms of what are your options and what are the options available to any and every business, regardless if you're a Dyson or if you're a small-time entrepreneur or if you're a small to medium-sized enterprise in the middle. I think it's safe to say within the context of doing product development without the cost, we're not today talking about creating revolutionary products. That is, unavoidably time hungry and cost sensitive and takes a long time. That is not a guaranteed outcome. So what I really want to focus everyone's attention today on is how can you manage the incremental improvement and refreshment of your product lines within your existing supply chain and or differentiating your supply chain so that you can get a better margin on your product. I think most interestingly, however, is the two subsequent ones in terms of how can you add evolutionary products to your current offering, to say that how can you add things to your product roadmap that are both complementary and fit into your brand already, as well as, and I think this is just as interesting, how can you add new users? How can you adapt your product line and your product roadmap evolutionarily so that you can essentially extend your market share and extend your client base? I think those two things in particular, I think for everybody here in terms of extending your business. So yeah, extending evolutionarily and adapting it evolutionarily, both to add new offerings and add new users. I think that is something we should really pay some attention to. So you might ask, that's all well and good. These are the approaches. How do I do this without the cost? And I think for us to really pay attention on the cost that we've removed, let's start with what is the traditional approach to product development. And I would maybe just, phrase this as traditional A to Z product development, which is incredibly important. And I think fundamentally part of what we're describing before in terms of maybe what is off limits today, creating a revolutionary product. Certainly in my past and all my patents, and I think in my previous talk, we talk about how do you provide that defensible position. And I think that is through intellectual property and other things like that. You need this process in order to provide that. However, as you see, it's at least 48 weeks plus in terms of seeing that idea through from your ideation phase into concepting, design, sourcing, production, logistics. It takes time. So what is our alternative? How do we unlock the potential for cost saving? And that's to say, there is actually the ability to have a network-enabled approach to product development, which is drastically shorter in its time frame, and therefore also drastically less in terms of its cost approach. And I'm going to unpack this a little bit more, but just as a side-by-side comparison, what we see at the front in terms of that little green box, which I'd really just pay attention to, is vendor engagement. We're not wanting to do this in a disjointed approach where you're coming up with strategies and ideas without the context of what your supply chain can provide. I think that's a really critical part to this. So I'll just move on to within the context of product development, and I'm going to come back to that process more later on. But who are the key enablers which you as a business really need to try and harness in and have great conversations with? And I would really focus that on market insights data. You're not wanting and won't gain your viability in terms of a differentiated product which gives you longevity in your business if you have not got an insight. Like, what are your competitors doing? How and where are they selling well? And I think I'd really stress more focusedly on where are they not doing well? What are the reviews that people are giving that provide you insight into what you could be doing better for your clients? Second to that is you need some expert resource as well as factory capabilities. Those two in conjunction with your market insights so that you know what it is that you're looking to solve for your problem, what problems you're looking to solve for your end users, in conjunction with linking that in with your expert resource, whether that be a designer or an engineer, with a factory, and getting those two parties to really collaborate. And it's important that they collaborate around a unified process and platform. That from the context of Gamber is something we can provide, but even for you in your independent endeavors, I think it's really important that you consider these 5 key enablers together. How can you join these together in a way that you have a clear insight into what you're looking to execute against and provide collaboration between these parties? What that looks like is to say, having a real focused attention to both client and product needs in a way that is not to say all market insight data. There are a lot of opportunities out there, but within the Venn diagram of where is the unique sweet spot, that the overlap with regards to what is the opportunity in the market, what is the opportunity within your existing or availability of the supplier network, as well as who are the expert resources that can provide you that development so that you can uniquely differentiate your product. I think with this approach, in terms of making sure that you've contextualized your market insights with what's available in the factory, with the expert resource you have in a combined, united approach of process development, support, and a platform, that's where you can really start to unlock a speed to market with an amazing execution. But again, I realize I'm maybe speaking at a fairly high level. Let's talk about this in what it looks like in the day-to-day. And this is what the typical product development journey for a creator is, that we are really looking to spearhead and provide to our clients, which is to say, both your service provider and you yourself really needs to understand your brand identity and your roadmap. I showed you those different options in terms of product development and the different guiding principles. I think we really need to, and you really need to understand, what is your ambition in terms of, am I adapting evolutionarily, wanting to add new offerings, or I'm actually looking to get new users? Having a really focused approach of what is my intent as a brand that I'm wanting to do. Taking that forwards into analyzing the markets to say, within that segment that I'm looking to, let's say, adapt evolutionarily and gain new users, who are my competitors? Where are they not performing well? Where can I gain market share and essentially a defensible position against them? And then being really creative in your problem solutions and your brainstorming around, what are my product opportunities? And I think the key thing here that certainly we at Gamber provide, and you can try and facilitate for yourself, is what are the actual specific product opportunities? Number 3. And I think the key thing here in terms of reducing the time and cost is to say, you want to do that in conjunction with who are the manufacturers that provide that product already. And I think what we're wanting to do there is to say, work with the manufacturer in conjunction with your designer, so that in step 5, you've got your samples, you've seen what the options are, and you're wanting to then adjust and finalize designs in a way that provides solutions to your users' problems in conjunction with your manufacturer. In traditional A to Z product development, you'll see a very staged approach of your designers and yourselves work in the product creation space prior to then engaging with a manufacturer. And I think what you see there, and that's a very necessary process for a new product, but there is some real inefficiency in terms of feedback from a manufacturer back to a creator, so on and so forth. I think the real thing in enabling low cost, low time approach to product development is adjusting and finalizing those designs within the context of really clearly set guidelines from a manufacturer. Yes, you can change this. No, you can't change that. If you change this, it will add X amount to the time and cost. So I think doing that in a really informed way, so that you can go from stage 1 through to stage 8 in terms of your brand identity roadmap, analyzing the markets, choosing your opportunities, shortlisted your manufacturers, and then the real meat of the product development journey with regards to, you've got your samples, you're adjusting and finalizing the designs, you're straight off to production and logistics, because you've done that in a really united, collaborative effort with your manufacturer, with your design experts. So to bring that alive with regards to a bit of a case study and an example is to say, what have we done in the past? And what we saw with One-on-One Commerce, a product partner with us, is they saw an opportunity within the market in terms of something they could provide. So what we did was essentially shortlist and select manufacturers who provided similar products. But I think the real uniqueness there is, how do we uniquely differentiate and adjust the design of that product to uniquely match the brand identity and incentives and insights that brand, One-on-One Commerce in this case, had. And what we did was, we were able to take the incentive in terms of, we're wanting to adapt evolutionarily, add new users, add a new product. We found a factory. We then developed that product in conjunction with the factory and our designers, and essentially saw a drastically reduced time to market, whilst also providing our client a uniquely differentiated product, which was their own, however, with the collaboration of the factory. That is the process with regards to how do you approach product development without the cost. I'd really stress that it is in conjunction with the manufacturer and with a combined approach with your market insights data, with your experts. That is how you can develop a new, unique product without the cost.